to the Mindfulness Society of Canada. It's good to see so many of you here, and tonight we're going to be talking about letting go. And right now, I'm letting go of the feelings that are coming up because I'm hearing the speakerphone on in my house with lots of loud voices behind me. Hopefully, it's not too distracting for you, and hopefully, it won't go on for too long, and it'll be done pretty soon because I have let everyone here know that I am giving a talk. So, letting it go as much as I can. All right. So I often find a little bit of laughter helps, and approaching things with a bit of lightness and not taking myself too seriously isn't too bad either. So if that can help anyone out there, those are a few things that are my go-tos. In my email, the reason why why I had the balls out and while I was juggling or attempting to juggle was because a number of years ago, I went and assisted my vision educators. This is the person who I had helping me improve my eyesight. And I was helping her run a retreat in Prince Edward County called The Art of Seeing Clearly. It's funny how that name sounds so familiar when we talk about mindfulness, but this was a different kind of seeing. This is seeing with seeing with our eyes. And um, during that retreat, we were given the opportunity to practice a few different activities, and one of those activities was learning how to juggle. And one of the things that I found very interesting about this was that my fixation and my idea of what juggling entailed was the act of like catching a ball, catching, 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 just catching, and keeping all of those balls up in the air, making sure none of them fell. And so this is this feeling of making sure I'm managing all of this stuff. And so there's a lot of this grasping and clinging, grasping and clinging. And that's where my focus was, because that's where my focus has been in my life. And so in the background of my mind, there was always this idea that I needed to make sure that to be a good manager of things, to be in charge or control of things, and to succeed in life and to have a successful life, I would be able to grasp and hold on to things really well and not let things fall. What I found was the most difficult part of juggling wasn't catching the balls. The most difficult part of juggling was actually letting the ball go, like actually letting go of my grasp and letting this ball actually go. And so I found myself, one of the balls would go up in the air, and then the other ball, I wouldn't release it in time to send it over to the other hand. And so as I'm doing this, what I was actually seeing didn't have much to do with my visual eyesight. It had a lot to do with the insight that I had about myself. And I think a lot of us might be able to relate when I talk about grasping and clinging. Does anyone here feel that they hold on to things too much? Hold on to things too tightly? Okay, pretty much everyone on camera has their hand up. All right. Um, and I can't pretend that I'm an expert at letting go of things. I can't say that I have, reached the end of suffering, let's say, or the end of attachment, because I haven't. I may be able to say that if at some point I reach a level of enlightenment where I'm worthy of being able to say that I've let go. But I have let go of a few things, notable things over my lifetime that um, in each instance, there was always the opportunity for me to see and take a moment or take time, to take actual time. It wasn't just a moment, it was a series of moments where I took time to observe myself. Maybe while I'm telling you a story, I'll tell you a story now. Maybe while I'm telling you a story, I'll ask you to cross your fingers. You can just sit comfortably where you are, but instead of sitting with your hand wherever it is, however it is, just cross a finger. Okay, you don't have to keep your hand up like this. You can keep your hand in your lap. Okay, and so I have let go of a bunch of things. I quit smoking. Okay. And one of the things, so some of you might be like, clutching your pearls, Salima, you were a smoker? I can't say I was a smoker, but I smoked. Okay. So it's one of the things that I'm finding really helpful in letting go is not putting a title on. Okay. So I never actually considered myself to be a smoker, but I did smoke. And I remember there was a moment in time where I had a very trusty routine of going out and enjoying concerts, enjoying dinner, going out with friends, going to a dinner party, going to a house party in my 20s, in my late 20s. And over that time, it felt very much like a routine because I was out most nights of the week. And I was mostly a social smoker. I wouldn't really smoke like at home too much. It was mostly when I was out, which was a lot. And I remember being in the shower one day, and I was in the shower, and I remember just feeling like out of every pore of my skin was just toxicity coming out while I was showering. And I knew that that night I was going to go out again, and I was going to be smoking again. And from out of nowhere, I had uh, an experience where a woman with a tracheotomy was saying to me, please stop. Please stop doing this to yourself. And I don't know who this woman with the tracheotomy was. I am telling myself in my mind that she was in a television commercial, like a PSA, but I haven't been able to go back and find this PSA, this television commercial. And in that moment, there was a clear recognition that in my old age, in the future, I wasn't going to be smoking. Certainly wasn't going to be a smoker, and I wasn't going to be smoking. And so the natural thing that arose in my mind was, well, why are you smoking now, Salima? And in that moment, it was very clear that if I wasn't going to be smoking in the future, I would have had to stop smoking before that future. So I went on a little campaign to stop smoking. Okay. And I did a bunch of little things that accumulated to break that habit. So the smoking was a habit, an unhealthy habit that I was clinging to. And I started to do a bunch of little things, including going from regular cigarettes to lighter to like menthol, which are really gross. Don't recommend if you're a smoker. Gave up my ashtrays and just started using these little jars, these glass jars of peanut butter that were empty. And I would just put some water and I'd put all the ashes and cigarettes and everything in there and then put the lid on. And then when I take the lid off, it was absolutely revolting. The stench was revolting. At a certain point, I stopped buying cigarettes, and I told myself the only way I could smoke would be to bum a cigarette from someone, which is, takes a lot of courage to walk up to a stranger and ask them for a cigarette. Um, and then I started to interrupt my pattern. And so I would do one day on, one day off, one day on, one day off. So the first day I could smoke at any point in time of the day. I could smoke as much as I wanted. There was no limitation. And then the second day, I couldn't smoke at all, not even a cigarette. And if I would repeat that pattern for a few days in a row, then I would do one day on, one day smoking, and 2 days off, 2 days not smoking. And if I could successfully repeat the one day on, 2 days off a few times in a row, I would graduate to one day on, 3 days off. And inevitably, I would fail. I would break my pattern. And I would do the walk of shame home from work. I knew I was going to go to the store and cave and buy a pack of cigarettes. I wouldn't even allow myself to turn on the light. When I would get home, I would sit in the dark and I would light up that cigarette feeling guilty, ashamed, useless, pathetic, worthless, and I would just watch. No one taught me mindfulness at this point, by the way. I would just sit there and watch my states of mind coming and going. I would notice feeling like rubbish. I would notice feeling useless, worthless. All these horrible feelings would come up one after another. And I found I couldn't even enjoy the cigarette anymore. So half the cigarette or three puffs in, the cigarette went into the glass, disgusting glass jar, and the lid went back on. Okay. And eventually, after a weekend of partying in Montreal, I woke up one morning in the hotel and I saw someone lighting a cigarette. And I was just so revolted, I decided I wasn't going to smoke that day. And then, remarkably, something very, very peculiar happened. I never had a craving. I never once had a craving since that morning. Not once. So, I mean, I wish it could be as easy for everyone to quit smoking. But I feel like part of it had to do, at least part of it had to do with my ability to observe myself and observe my states of mind. Again, nobody had taught me mindfulness at this time. This was a very long time ago. And just the fact that I was able to take time out and be alone and observe myself and observe not only what the body was doing, but also what was coming up internally when I was going through these motions was a bit of a godsend for me. And so I can say that I stopped smoking, I've quit smoking for, I don't know, probably close to 20 years. Okay. Very long time. Okay. Quick check-in. How many of you are still have your finger crossed? Okay, a lot of you. How many of you let go of your finger or forgot about your finger? Okay, if some of you forgot, great. So you let go. All right, you didn't hold on to this thing like I have to stay like this forever. Okay, some of you actually let go. Okay, so it's not that hard to let go. In some cases, letting go is a function of distraction. In some cases, letting go is a function of being at capacity or over capacity. In some cases, letting go is a function of observation. And the most powerful is observation that comes through mindfulness and samadhi. It's the most powerful because it's lasting. It's more lasting. Now, I can't say I'll never smoke in the future. I don't know if I can actually say that. I can't say in my future lives, if there are future lives that I won't be smoking, I can't say that. It's not guaranteed because I'm not at that point in my development where I can say I'm free from suffering. I'm not free from suffering. So why do we cling to things? Because we suffer. We cling to things because we suffer. I've also let go of a career, let go of an idea of a title, a job title, or even an idea that I was going to save the world and work at this African NGO for the rest of my life, or in that industry or that field and help millions and millions of kids or families or people who are struggling in other parts of the world, given that away. And even then, I took a couple of weeks off around the December holidays. And which was my usual, instead of getting on a plane and going to visit friends to, go party somewhere else in the world or spending time with a boyfriend or whatever my usual things were, I stayed alone. I was at a friend's place and didn't tell anyone where I was, got a bunch of groceries, and listened to two 30-minute meditations every single day, and just cried and cried and cried and cried and cried some more, and then observed myself going through all of the stress, thinking of going back to work in January, thinking of what I was going to do. Was I going to take the next step and go for the executive director position? Was I just going to stay in my current job? Was I going to leave my workplace and go someplace else? What was I going to do? All of this suffering coming up constantly, constantly, even just having to choose, having to decide. And then I walked into my office in January when we finished our holidays, and I walked into the office and I had a moment where I got to the top of the stairs. I would walk up the stairs every day. I got to the top of the stairs and I smelled the office. And I just remember the smell of it wasn't an unhappy or terrible smell, by the way. It was perfectly beautiful. It was a nice smell. But just the smell of the office hit me. And immediately I saw myself, I saw the aversion that came up. And there was a part of me that just saw this and knew that this wasn't for me, that I didn't need to keep doing it, didn't need to keep going back to that office every single day. And so I got up the courage and wrote my resignation and haven't looked back. Haven't looked back since then. And a lot of my clients will come to me and ask me, what should I do? What's the right course of action? And they want me to tell them the answer. They want me to tell them, you need to do this, or this is in your best interest, or this would be more prudent, or this is in your karma, or this is outside of your karma. They want me to tell them, but what I can actually tell you is there's nothing like having that first hand experience of observation and having something arise for you to see it and fall away on its own. That's real letting go. It's not forcing your hand, it's not trying, it's not talking yourself into or out of something, it's not reasoning with this stuff. It's actually letting it be seen. And the only way that it's going to be seen is through the practice of self-observation, of observing oneself. One more thing that I've had to let go of, which I haven't completely let go of, but a lot of you know that my mom has been very ill for most of my life, actually, since the time I was about 14. And I remember her getting her third kidney transplant, and it was the doctor said, if this one doesn't work, that's it. We can't do anything more for you. And I sat in that waiting room and just cried and cried the whole time she was in surgery. The people in the waiting room must have thought I was kind of nuts because I was just sitting there crying inconsolably. And um, a couple of years ago, sometimes she can walk, sometimes she can't, sometimes she can use her hands, sometimes she can't. And I was massaging her neck or the back of like back here, upper back area. And I remember just moving my hand. I'd been practicing watching the body, doing some walking meditation, watching my body, watching my breath. And I was just like rubbing her back. And I remember doing this, and I had this very clear moment of seeing non-self, that this body wasn't me and it was just moving on its own. I wasn't really controlling it too much. It was just happening by itself. I just woke up, and in the next moment, something really interesting happened. And it was very clear that as an individual, this mind and this body, there was a separation also between me and my family, me and my mom. And it was this understanding that she doesn't really exist as a stable thing, an unchanging, stable thing in the world. That, yeah, in the conventional sense, she's my mom and her name is this, and she has grandkids and all that kind of thing. But in a very different way, she's an idea. She's an idea, and she's something that these eyes can see, these ears can hear, these hands can touch. So my interaction with her is through the six senses, is through the senses. If there weren't these senses, then I wouldn't have any concept of this being, of this individual. And that just sort of came up so easily for me to see. And it's quite a thing to be able to see something like the person that you're probably the most close, the person who you spent 9 months in their womb, right? And lived your whole life thinking mom, mother, mama, whatever you call your mom. And knowing in a clear instant that she is an idea and that the only way that you interact with this person is through the senses. And that's it. It can be very powerful. So we attach to all sorts of things. We attach to the world out there, politics, stories, fictions. We attach to, how many of us read books or watch TV, right? Pretty much everyone, right? And when the book is finished or the television show is over, the movie's done, we're like, oh, I wish it didn't end. I want to hang out with those characters a little bit longer, right? So we attach to that stuff. We attach to physical objects. possessions, items. One thing that I often do when I see an item in a store, and I used to do this with shoes and sometimes dresses, because I like to dress up back in the day. And I would walk by the shop, and I would see whatever it was in the front window, and I would notice my attention go out to that item, and I would notice the liking and the interest and the curiosity and all of these things coming up, the greed coming up. And if my mindfulness wasn't strong enough, then I would just stand there and just soak and marinate in the beauty of whatever this was. If it was a pair of shoes, I would just like, oh, wow, they're so beautiful. If it was a dress, oh, it's so, so beautiful. And I would just let myself just observe it and love it. And then I'd take a deep breath, like as if I just finished dessert. And then I would walk away. So, in essence, I would tell myself I've already eaten it. I already ate those shoes. I already ate that dress. It's already in the stomach and being digested. It's already down there. Okay. And this was it was good for my wallet, but it was also very good for my mind to be able to see even now, whenever anything comes into my home, doesn't matter how great it is. And this is a new laptop in front of me, and I don't really like it very much. You know, it's supposed to be brand new, but it can't do as many things as my old laptop did. Um, but when things come into my home or things come into my possession, in a weird way, I already see them as garbage. Like they're in my hand, and I'm like, this is every second that it exists, it's just becoming garbage quicklier, like even more quickly. It's just going towards from here to the garbage bin at some point, right? So keeping in mind the impermanence of not just physical objects, but even things like titles, ambitions, achievements. Yes, I'm going to achieve this thing. And great, tomorrow I'm going to forget about that achievement. I'm not going to even think about it or remember it. And I'm going to be on to the next thing, right? How long can we actually hold on to, oh, I did really great on that test, or I did really wonderfully with that project, or wasn't that cleanup job at home, didn't that go so well? I cleaned everything sparkling. Oh yeah, there's going to be crumbs tomorrow. Trust me. There's going to be spills. For those of us who clean our own homes, you know how it is. Okay, it's a daily battle. Then there's people. I talked about that, our connection to people. I do see a lot of people um, on a daily basis, sometimes online and sometimes in person, and people have heartbreaking stories. And it does get easier. Oddly, it does get easier. If you have a mindfulness practice, it does get easier allowing yourself to see these things. So, what I will say to people who feel really, I just had a bunch of text messages from friends of mine. Some of you are here. We're worried about our friend. How's she doing? Has anyone heard from her? Right? And so we're holding, we're clinging and clinging and clinging. And so the one thing that I have to constantly do to remind myself is to see this pain that's coming up here, my wanting to know, wanting people to be okay. And then on the other end, having a practice is so important because it gives us the opportunity to practice in a way where we're able to see the distance between things, to see things at a distance. And that's where mindfulness is different than just meditation, where true practice of mindfulness, the correct practice, is actually very different than a lot of things that are called mindfulness out there, because we're not holding things tightly, we're not clinging to stuff. We have habits, healthy ones. Okay, so even healthy ones, I'm not just talking about things like smoking, but we have healthy habits that we cling to. Okay, how many of us are, um, what's the word? How many of us are prisoners of our vitamins or our exercise routines or our green juice or our fill in the blank? Okay. How many of us can go, a few days without our vitamins? Probably none of us. We don't believe that we can go for a few days. I see like a couple people who are like, yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll give up my vitamins. All right, great. Okay. But for some of us, it's a bit of a prison. It's a prison. And then we have our ideas, like our likes, our dislikes. We have our affiliations. I'm part of this group. We might not even know the people in that group, and they might be suffering somewhere across the world, somewhere on a different continent. We might not even know this person. We don't know the good and the bad and the whatever it is that's going on in their mind and heart. And yet we care about them so much. Or there's a group and we believe this group is to be the best group and we're going to be part of this best group. Right? We all do this. It's not just any one of us. It's all of us. We all do it. And these things are not stable. They're not things that exist in perpetuity. The most difficult of all, and it all really comes down to this last one, and that is the attachment to ourself. We can't love anything, no matter what we say, okay? It might be our own child, but we can't love anything more than we love ourselves. So even when that client or that student or that family member is suffering, what is actually going on? We are suffering here, and our attachment to our feelings is what is prompting us to want to help them or wanting them to be okay, right? It's our pain here that we want to get rid of. If we really look closely, that's what we're going to find. Okay. But we do have to look closely. There's no end to what we attach to. Okay. And we believe, okay, that we attach to these things out of comfort. We want to feel better, or even because our mind is uh, groomed or it's designed to enjoy repetition. It likes habits, it likes programs. The mind likes, it's like a dog with a bone. It likes to kind of chew on things. The more juicy something is, whether it's a happy thing or an unhappy thing, whether it's a wholesome thing or an unwholesome thing, the mind loves to chew on these things. You're driving and you see an accident by the side of the road. Everyone rubbernecks and everyone's looking at what's going on. Oh, I want to know. There's curiosity. Want to know what's going on. And so the real reason, it's not just because of these things. We can come up with all sorts of ideas of why we attach, but the real reason is that we have these six senses, and these six senses make contact with the world. And feelings and sensations come from that contact. So our eyes go out to the dress, and then there's liking or disliking. There's a feeling, a sensation that comes up, liking or disliking. And then it spurs the next thing and the next thing. And the next thing you know, we're inside the shop and we're, trying on the dress. Right. And so life can be like, I brought this little prop because I sometimes use this example, but I haven't taken the time to find these. So it's like this, it's like a film strip. We all know what a film strip looks like, da, 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 right? And so in real life, it looks like, it just looks like this. It's a movie, it's just moving. But what's actually happening is each one of these things, I don't know if you can see this really clearly, maybe I'll put a paper behind it. Each one of these things is a separate picture. There's multiple pictures, picture, 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 and they're just slightly different. The pictures are just slightly different than the one before, just with a degree of difference, right? And so the thing before will, and I talked about this in my talk on birth that I did not so long ago, whatever came before will sponsor the thing that comes after. So we have these six senses. Okay, we have consciousness, we have these six senses, and then the attention goes out to make contact with the world. Okay, and then there's liking, disliking, and then there's grasping, clinging. So even grasping to things we don't like. Oh, I really don't like the way that person said that. I'm going to go and tell them. Or I don't like that video. I'm going to make a comment under their YouTube video and tell them. So there's all this like stuff that just keeps going. Okay. And we think it's all the same, but it's one thing after another, after another, after another, after another. And so we believe that the problems are out there, but actually it's all in here. Okay. And so we're going to do a little practice today. The stuff that's going on is all in here. And the only thing that we can really do that really makes a difference is to see ourselves clearly And if we actually only focus on seeing this thing clearly, this body and mind clearly, then all of the other things, the people, the habits, the ideas, all the things I mentioned just now, we'll start to see the truth of all of those things just by looking at this thing, just by looking at the body and mind that's here. And when we do that, we'll free our minds from suffering. We'll start to let go. We'll start to be ready to let go. Now, I do want to mention something uh, before I go any further. And this is really the real circus, okay? That there is an illusion here that's going on that all of us fall prey to, every single one of us do. And that illusion is the illusion of letting things go. It is the illusion of what I'm talking about today. So we believe that we can so we can tell ourselves, let's let go of anger. Okay. How many of us have done this? Okay, just let it go, telling ourselves to just let it go, let it go. Okay. A lot of us have told ourselves, okay, just let it go, right? And has it worked for us? Maybe not. Okay. Maybe it worked. Maybe it threw more fuel onto the whatever that fire was. I see Ashley going, it didn't work so well. Okay. So what happens? Why does this happen? When we tell ourselves to let go, or when we say that we're allowing the anger to go, or the frustration to go, or the irritation to go, or the sadness to go, or whatever the unhappy experience is to go, it implies that we have control over that experience. And we don't. We don't have control over it. In fact, every single time we let something go on purpose like that, there's actually suffering because we still want to control it. We still want to control it in some way. So it's actually still operating. So in reality, what's really the only thing that can happen is that things let go on their own, out of their own causes disappear, and then they let go. They drop away because the causes go, not because we tell them to go, not because we can control them. Things don't need us to give them permission. So really the only thing we can do to help the situation is observing our own wanting, our own grasping, our own clinging with mindfulness. Okay. And so this has two parts. There's two parts to it. There's mindfulness, which is the what, right? So we're observing this body and this mind. That's the what. Okay. We're not observing the stuff out there that I mentioned before. We're observing over here. We're observing the hand massaging someone's back. We're observing the thoughts and feelings as we're having the cigarette. We're observing what's going on internally. Okay. And then the other piece is the how, and that's samadhi. And samadhi is a form of concentration that observes lightly. Lightly. It observes moment to moment to moment to moment, and it observes lightly. So when we practice, and we're going to do some practice in a moment, and a lot of us who have studied mindfulness with either some of our teacher, Jess, or his teacher, or the associate teachers in Thailand, will have heard not to overfocus, not to grasp, not to cling, not to make the mind sink down into whatever it's looking at. Okay. And so this is a bit of I guess you could say, an occupational hazard of a practitioner, right? Because it's something that at some point all of us will be doing. And most of the time we are sinking down, or we're getting our mind kind of absorbed into something. We want to not do that. So I was on a Zoom call with some friends of mine recently, and I reminded them of a time that we were in Thailand, and we went to go towards the end of our trip there, where we were learning with some really powerful teachers. And one of them was this sweet elderly man, and we went to his house, and he had this meditation room upstairs in his house, and it was the last day of our trip. And he said, "Don't do this. So he's moving his finger back and forth, and his eyes were going and following the finger like this, just like this. Can you all see that? What I'm doing? You all saw that, right? He said, you can still know that the finger's doing this, but you can just observe like this. So how many of us, when we're practicing, we're like, okay, now I'm going to focus. I'm going to feel the breath. I'm going to feel the part of the body. I'm going to watch the hand opening and closing. I'm going to repeat the mantra and stay with the mantra. And we want to do something. We want to do. We want to do. And then any doing is over focusing, is too tight, is too much clinging, too much holding, is not letting things go, not letting things be natural. Okay, so I want you to just do this for a minute with me. So see the difference between doing this with your fingers. So literally bring your finger up and then follow it with your eyes or your whole head. Okay, da 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 da. Da. You can see that there's this adherence. Like I'm not letting this finger just have its own life. Okay, and then see if you can just do it without in the periphery. You just know, you know. You're not looking. You're not staring. You're just knowing that the finger's moving. It's like a cloud passing the sky. You just know it's passing. You don't have to go and look at it closely. Just there. Okay? Just a quick thumbs up. Does everyone see the difference between those two things? Okay? So there's a lightness to this. Does anyone feel that lightness? It just feels a little bit lighter. It feels a little bit, doesn't feel harsh. Doesn't feel hard. It's not attached. It's just the finger's doing this, and the mind just knows. The mind knows. Okay? So we don't want to sink down. And I'm going to give us an exercise where we're probably going to sink down. Okay? But the reason that I'm doing this is so that you can see that the mind sank down. And once the mind sinks down and you know it, then you're knowing. Then there's just that knowing. Okay? And then the mind won't be sunken once you know that it's sunken. And it might sink down multiple times. And as many times as it sinks down, if you can notice many of those many times, then those are the times where you're actually being mindful, being actually aware and not clinging, not grasping. Okay, so in order for our practice to be successful, we want our practice not to go from, okay, I have a busy life and juggling all these things and activities and stuff. I've got all these balls in the air, and then all of a sudden I'm going to drop everything. I'm going to sit here. I'm going to be like a statue. I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to just be perfect. It's kind of hard to take the hamster off the hamster wheel and expect the hamster to just stand still. It's kind of hard to get off a roller coaster or what you would call it that goes spinning around. Merry-go-round? I don't know what it is. A ride at the amusement park that goes around and around, spins, and then the teacups. Everyone knows the teacups. And then all of a sudden you're on, the regular ground, and it's hard not to feel dizzy from that. So instead of expecting our mind to go from this extreme to that extreme, whatever we're going to do in our practice is going to kind of be how our mind is in our daily life. Okay, so our minds are active. If we live in the modern world, we're not like in a cave somewhere in complete silence, then we're living an active life. We probably have jobs and families and responsibilities and bills and friends and activities that we have to do. So I'm going to give us something to do that's a little bit lighter and a little bit more, I would say, filled with movement. Okay, something that feels more variable and much more kind of at the level of where our minds are on a day-to-day level. So when we start our practice, okay, notice if there's a feeling of like intention. Okay, there's like, okay, we're going to start something now. Just know that this, instead of doing this, just, oh yeah, there was some intention. Okay, and we're going to observe this body and mind. And so I'm going to guide you to observe the body with your attention. And anytime you notice the mind go off and do something else, just gently know. Just gently know the mind went and did whatever it did. Okay. And if you're noticing that the mind goes right down to focus into what I'm telling you to observe, then see if you can notice that the mind went in and it went and sank down. Okay. Anytime you're able to notice any of those two things, you're practicing well. Just for that moment, you're practicing well. So we'll do a very simple body scan. Okay. And I know that this isn't a practice that we do very often in the Mindfulness Society, so I thought I would change it up a little and do something different. And a body scan is just a very simple awareness of the body that moves from one place to another. And I'm going to go pretty quickly. I'm not going to give us tons of time to marinate in the elbow or the earlobe. But what I'm going to do is give us an opportunity to notice that area, notice how we're noticing it, and notice if we sink down or notice if the mind gets disinterested and goes away. Okay? So we'll just notice the whole body sitting. Here it is. This body's sitting. Top of the head, forehead, eyes, jaws, lips, back of the head, throat, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, upper chest, upper back, belly, middle back, lower back, hips, bottom, backs of the thighs, front of the thighs, knees, lower legs, ankles, feet, whole body sitting. If your eyes were closed, we're going to do it again, and let's see if you can do it with your eyes open. Lightly. Okay, we're going to do it lightly. Okay, so this is not completely letting go, but it's bringing lightness into our practice. So when we close our eyes, what happens? We're shutting out the visual sense, so then we're sending our attention to different areas. Okay, this time let's see what it feels like with our eyes open. I know this might feel weird to practice with your eyes open, but trust me, it's the preferred way to practice. Okay, so we'll do it again. Whole body sitting, top of the head, forehead, eyes, jaws, lips, back of the head, throat, shoulders, upper arms, elbows, forearms, wrists, hands, upper chest, upper back, belly, lower back, hips, bottom, backs of the thighs, front of the thighs, knees, lower legs, ankles, feet, and whole body sitting. Okay, so quick show of hands. Did anyone notice their attention sinking down into the body the first way with your eyes closed? Okay, good. Yeah, it did. Yeah, it did. Excellent. Did anyone notice the mind sinking down the second way with the eyes open? Okay. Yeah. Did anyone feel that it was less sinking down with the eyes open? Okay. And which one felt lighter? Did eyes closed feel lighter? Did eyes open feel lighter? Okay. All right. So what I feel is helpful for us here is to remember that even just kind of taking our foot off of the gas pedal and not trying so hard, not applying so much pressure, can help us to begin to set the stage for that letting go to happen. So again, we don't want to control the mind in letting go. We want to create the conditions so that we find space. We have the opportunity to have space between things so that we see them. And then what happens is without forcing, without telling this part of the body or that part of the body to feel better or let go of that person, let go of that idea, the mindfulness comes in and does that. It breaks that pattern. It does it by itself because we've practiced and we've created the conditions and put in the right causes for that break to be there, for mindfulness to come in and see the truth of things, to see how things truly are, and so that that pattern gets broken down. And the more that we collect those moments where we are able to have mindfulness come in by itself and snip and snip and snip, we start letting go of all of those superfluous stories and the anxieties and the cravings and the wantings and the needing and the grief and the guilt and all the stuff that makes up the suffering in our hearts and minds. So I hope that we can practice lightly. And it reminded me, I'm going to read, I have it on my screen here. I'm going to read a passage from a book by Aldous Huxley. I'll read it to us because I remembered it when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about today. It's dark because you're trying too hard. Lightly, child, lightly. Learn to do everything lightly. Yes, feel lightly even though you're feeling deeply. Just lightly let things happen and lightly cope with them. Lightly, lightly. It's the best advice ever given to me. When it comes to dying even, nothing ponderous or pretentious or emphatic, no rhetoric, no tremolos, just self-consciousness, just the fact of dying. So throw away your baggage and go forward. There are quicksands all about you, sucking at your feet, trying to suck you down into fear and self-pity and despair. That's why you must walk so lightly, lightly, my darling. And I really like that passage because it does remind us that even in our regular everyday life, we can bring that mindful awareness into whatever it is that we're doing. And the ultimate letting go, we think is dying. We think that the ultimate letting go is the end of this life, and that's going to be the end. But not necessarily so, because we do go out one way and we come in the same way. So if we go out like rage against the dying of the light, if we go out with all of that, all of that drama, likely we'll come into our next life in tears. Okay, so we want to break those habits. We want to have mindfulness come in and snip, 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 snip as much as it possibly can. Not because we tell it to snip, but because we practice, so the snipping happens on its own. So I want to thank us all for being here. I hope that you're able to practice lightly and often and well, and I hope that you're all able to let go in whatever way in your actual life, in your day-to-day life, and able to see the letting go, the arising and falling of things, and letting go of things in your practice. So thank you. May all of us be happy and safe and healthy and well and peaceful. May we practice to the end of suffering, and may all beings share in the merits of our practice today. May all beings everywhere, each and every one, omitting none, may all beings everywhere be happy, be at ease, be peaceful, and be able to practice to the end of their suffering. All right, thank you.
Thanks so much, Salima. Really powerful talk for me today. I've all definitely been seeing a lot of stuff in my life happening that is pushing me to look inwards, and of course, pushing myself to just try and let go, and the wonderful reminder about lightness and gentleness with our practice, and with the purpose of what we're doing day to day. So thank you. I hope this reminder was helpful for everyone as well. And we are back next Sunday again on May 4th, with Rhonda at 8 p.m. She will be speaking about fear and our fight and flight patterns that we have in our behaviors, and how we can look to use mindfulness to support us while dealing with these things. Another powerful talk coming up. Thank you again, Salima. Thank you everyone for joining us today. I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we will see you in a week's time.